Oh, there you are. Thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review. And there she is as well, Liz Hayfron-Asari, media consultant. A very good morning to you, Liz.
Good morning.
Another beautiful one you have. I should find out whom your designer is, because now, dear, you're in a comfortable lead. You've taken the lead when it comes to, the fanciful dresses you don on the show. I should come see you. Or is your seamstress not unisex?
No, I don't think she is. My seamstress is my sister, so.
Shoot. Missed opportunity right there. But thank you for joining us this Tuesday morning. Before we get into the papers, though, another fire has ravaged the Opera Square area. And I just wanted to find out from you. I'm sure maybe you followed the news and you caught wind of that. Some matters of interest to me. One of the fire service officers spoke about how they exhausted the water that they had, and they had to go as far as Abelegbe and other areas just to refill their tanks. I mean, I don't know what it is, but sometimes it makes you want to tear your hair out when you hear of such situations. Some of the very basic things a state can do for its people. There's a fire. You can save some property. There are combustibles, but there's no water to deal with the situation. The other side of the question I'm posing to you is, every year, markets are on fire. This is on fire. Commercial buildings. I'm at a loss for words, Liz. What do you think about all this?
It beats my mind also, and I'm wondering why in the whole of the Accra Central District we do not have water hydrants, because that is the quickest way any fire service can refill if they have hydrants around. So I'm wondering what happened to all the hydrants that were in that area. They didn't get any in that area. They didn't get any in Rage, in Roman Rage. They had to go all the way to Abelegbe to be able to fill water. So then it means that there's something that we are not doing as a people. Watching the footage yesterday, I was wondering, why were the fire officers on the ground floor trying to put out fire on the first and second floors? Don't we have any ladders? So you see that they're just shooting the water up, hoping that the fire will go out, because they're not targeting where the fire is. They're just spraying water up into the building. And I'm wondering, don't we have ladders? If they climb the ladder, won't they be able to better and put out the fire and faster also? So there are a lot of questions begging answers. And I'm wondering why over all this time, fire service hasn't done its, should I say, recce to make sure that in those areas where it's possible that there'll be fires, because there have been fires in the past, they haven't stepped up their game to make sure that they can get water in that vicinity. And then they were complaining about access. And I'm like, still are we complaining about access to areas that we know is commercial, where there'll be fires, where... And then my next question, what time was it? Were there people at work? Do the buildings have fire extinguishers? I mean, what is the first call when it happens before you can even call the fire service? Was there any attempt made? And all those are questions that are begging answers.
Questions begging answers. But here we are, another fire, and it has done its worst. Hopefully, we shall learn the lessons. I don't know what kind of people we are, because everyone goes through circumstances and you learn lessons and you move on. In our case, the things keep happening and one cannot tell. From where I sit, for example, do we learn the lessons or not? Because we keep repeating the mistakes. We have the Odona area. I went there, I think, a year and a half ago to cover, an incident that had happened, a fire incident. You see it rebuilt, you look at certain things and you ask yourself, what has changed? What new regulations are there for those who are going to the market? We want to wait till the fire happens again. That Odona place, the market, it's not gone down once or twice. It's gone down on multiple occasions. Why do we have this in this country? It's really sad. Really, really, really sad.
Another interesting thing for me was the people who were standing by and just watching.
Right.
And you realize that in the past, it didn't used to be like that. At the moment there was a fire, people would get involved. But now everybody seems to be apathetic. We just stand and watch.
But I think it's also because people have been cautioned. You remember the Apiate incident and how some people, in trying to get closer, were the ones who actually got killed, a number of them. So I think it's also about public education. People are getting more conscious about the dangers of such situations, don't you?
And that's what I'm coming to, because fire service used to train voluntary firefighters. Right. Have they stopped? If they have, why? If they haven't, what are they doing to make sure that we have firefighters everywhere, voluntary firefighters everywhere, who know exactly what to do, when and where?
Interesting perspectives. Let's get into the Daily Dispatch newspaper list, shall we? And it says, if elections were held today, the MPP would get 145 of the 275 seats. That's the Director of Research at the presidency. This is interesting. It was on the back of an interaction with my colleague Raymond Aqua on Upfront. And some have said that this is a laughable perspective. But let me give you what the newspaper says. An assessment conducted by the Research Directorate at the presidency has revealed that former President John Mahama is likely to be retained as the flag bearer of the NDC for the 2024 general elections. This is contrary to the Economic Intelligence Unit's report that has urged the NDC to consider introducing a new candidate for the polls. Now, according to Dr. Isaac Owusu-Mensah, the research team engaged both NDC members and other non-NDC members for this exercise. As President Akufo-Addo concludes his final term in 2024, the opposition is expected to face off. But according to him, as has been mentioned, he believes that if elections were held, between the time of the interview till today, the NPP would garner some 145 seats, and you would also have the NDC taking the rest. He believes that per data from his office, the current situation of equal seats in Parliament would emphatically change, assuming elections were held now. The political fray. Liz, would you be drawn in? In recent times, we've seen reports from the ERU. I'm sure we've had reports from Global Info Analytics. And here we are with another, this time from the presidency, the Director of Research at the Office of the President. With all of these coming in, what do you think it is? Is it political weighting or weighing? Is it the political game? And some of these that are not in the game, so to speak, they are research entities, think tanks. How do you feel about all these reports?
How do I feel?
What do you think?
I think that, well, coming from the research team at the presidency, you wouldn't expect them to say that they will lose. They definitely would paint a picture that they will win.
I'm with you on that one.
But on the ground, what are we seeing? You see a lot of discontent amongst the people. You hear people complaining day in, day out. The economic situation has not made it any better for anybody. So if he thinks that 145 of them would win, what is he looking at? What criteria is he using? Because when I go around the country, people are disgruntled day in, day out. People are complaining that things are not going well. And I think that the earlier they sit up, the earlier government sits up, the better for everybody. Because we are not only looking at the politics of it, the economics of it is very important. And if people are not satisfied with their way of life or the standard of living, they definitely would vote whoever is in government out, because they'll be looking for somebody who would make it better for them.
Let's check out some more stories. And there's this one on page 11. Let me just get there. 22,000 spare parts dealers to be relocated to West Africa Automotive Village at Athena. They are being moved from Abosokai to the Athena area in the Greater Accra region as part of the West Africa Automotive Village or Hub project. Now, according to the Greater Accra Regional Minister, Henry Quartey. The move is part of the new face of Greater Accra Region, in which the region will be transformed and modernized as an attractive destination in Africa. Any review of this, especially on the back of what we've seen from the Greater Accra Regional Minister? He relocated the onion sellers in Agbubulushi to where they are now. And here we are with another such initiative. And do you feel it will achieve the ends we're looking at? Making Accra the cleanest city in Africa and also giving this facelift to the region?
With the facelift, yes, I think it would. But then again, you'd wonder what happens when the people are moved, because does it become an inconvenience to those who need spare parts on the spur of the moment? We know that Athena is quite a distance. So if something happens to your car, you're going to travel all the way to Athena to get a part to fix it. So I don't know if we have weighed it all around. If I think that the Bosokai area is congested. I think that it is an eyesore. Sometimes when you go there, you see the way they've just displayed the parts on the road and caused a lot of mess in that area. And if you're looking to cleaning the city and making it attractive, then it is a good thing. But couldn't there be another place that is probably closer? Because I'm not looking at those who are upscale, who will take their cars to all the posh maintenance centers. You're looking at those who probably want a quick fix for something and don't have that kind of money. Will they be willing to travel all the way to Athena to do so? So I don't know. I don't know what has happened, and I haven't followed it closely, so I cannot tell. But I believe that in doing something like this, you should be considering the masses, even as you work towards cleaning up the city.
Let's get into the Finder newspaper now. Quite a number of stories to look at. Malaria wipes out 6% of Ghana's GDP. That's according to Dr. Malm. Malaria. And there have been calls from the Ghana Medical Laboratory Scientist Group, for example, to introduce the malaria vaccines into the system. PRC resolves 97% of complaints, recovers 6.3 million Ghana cedis in 2021. There is Lands Ministry receives a report on Bulgarian embassy land case, and I'm sure you remember that one. We've spoken about it before. And another major story there, Ghana Water Company Limited posts 938.83 million, not profit, net loss in 2020. It's a 64.17% reduction from the 2.6 billion Ghana cedi loss in 2019. So even better, but still terrible. Company's liquidity position remains precarious. But let's bring you some details of those stories. But I'll start with this one. I'm sure it will interest you, Liz. Open Day for the Girls in ICT launched. And the Open Day for the Girls in ICT initiative, organized by the Ministry for Communications and Digitalization, has duly been launched to provide girls with opportunities in the ICT industry. About 80 girls who are drawn from schools in the Central, OT, Western, North, and Northeast regions will be attached to ICT-based institutions or companies. The girls will enjoy a week-long interaction with great achievers in the ICT industry. Of course, we've been hearing from the sector minister, Ursula Wusu-Ekufo, on this beat. How excited are you by this development, and what would you like to see, Alice?
In ICT, yes, a lot more girls, a lot more ladies in there. I believe that it is time that we get technological and electronically educated. And since that is the way we are going now, using computers and all like that, technology is upscale. It's good to have girls in there. It's good to let girls know that they can succeed if they put their mind to it. A lot of girls shy away from sciences and shy away from technology because they think it's difficult. But I believe that if they start early And this, I believe, is one such intervention to make sure that girls are able to integrate into sectors that they would normally not want to go into. It is a good thing. I still struggle with technology sometimes, even when I'm working on my computer. And I believe that in the future, it will be something that all girls would need to work with. They probably won't be in a position where they can get people to work for them, so they'd have to be able to do it themselves. Sometimes I shudder to think that if I should travel out and I do not have my sons around me to help me with my computer, then what happens? So I think it's in a good direction. I believe that it should not only be for certain girls, because normally when we look at these things, we pick those in the bracket where we'll call in the advanced schools, the A schools. We should look across board and even try and pick people from the remote areas. You think that when they go back, they won't have the electricity and things to work with, but at least if they have the knowledge, with the knowledge, they'll be able to do a lot, especially in the remote areas, and that is a good thing.
Let's check out this other story, which has to do with malaria and what impact it is having on our country. Dr. Kezia Mom, I think I saw her walking around here, our premises, sometime yesterday. But she is with the malaria control program, or the program manager for the National Malaria Control Program, says malaria tops in disease expenditure under the National Health Insurance Scheme. And she says the disease also reduces the Ghanaian GDP by 0.25% to as high as 6%, adding that malaria was still the #1 cause of outpatient attendance in health facilities and affected millions of people. She was speaking at the commemoration of the 2022 World Malaria Day in Hohoi on the theme Advance Equity, Build Resilience, and Malaria. I always reference this when malaria comes up, though a place like Cuba has its own problems with dengue fever, Zika, among others. But they have successfully eradicated malaria. In this day and age, we're talking about vaccines as well. And there has been the push, like I was intimating earlier, for these vaccines to be more general so that people can, even the young ones, can develop some resistance, better resistance to malaria. But especially considering that it wipes out up to about 6% of our GDP, shouldn't this be like a major program for our governments? What do you think?
It should be a priority. I believe that they've worked on malaria for years. I wonder why it's
decades
ravishing our economy the way it is. I believe that maybe it has a lot to do with us as a people. Sanitation is still very poor. We have all kinds of breeding grounds for the mosquito. And then people wait till it's very late to seek redress. We like doing a lot of self-medication. You have a headache, you're running a temperature, and we go first for self-medication instead of going to the hospital to make sure that it's not malaria. And the thing is that with malaria, it definitely is the mosquito. It's not something that is passed on from person to person. So we need to be more attentive to our surroundings, to our environment, and that we are not doing very well with. You go and you realize that there's stagnant water in places, there's bush where the mosquitoes can breed, and nothing is being done. And once one person is bitten, one person with malaria is bitten, it carries on. So there's a lot more we need to do. There's a lot of education that needs to go on. We have educated, but still we don't seem to be able to nip are falling ill and are getting malaria in the bud. We are always struggling with it. And I think that there's a lot more work that needs to be done. And I think that since it's affecting our GDP, the government should be up and doing. We shouldn't relent. Like you're saying, Cuba has been able to eradicate it. Why haven't we worked on it so that it's at the barest minimum? I believe we can do so. It has been done before. So let's go back to doing the things that we were doing that was making sure that especially the children, you have children under 5, and a lot of them ending up with malaria, and some of them even losing their lives. So why aren't we paying a lot of attention to that?
Right.
And making sure that the people are healthy? Because if a majority of the people fall ill, if the majority of the people have malaria, then definitely your production is going to come down. And those skilled workers that you need probably won't be at post. So it will definitely affect our GDP.
Well, tied to that, RTS-S, malaria vaccine, not to wipe off other interventions. That's according to the Kintampo Health Research Center, basically to say that even as we introduce these vaccines, hopefully on a more large scale, or on a larger scale, we would also not forget about the other interventions. But to wrap in the final newspaper, that story about the 2020 State Ownership Report, which we've been putting out there, and the Ghana Water Company Limited has posted a 938.83 million net loss in 2020. When you have state-owned enterprises performing like this, most of them in dire straits, though the 2020 performance is better than its 2019 performance in terms of liabilities, we still have a long way to go, Liz. Quite a long way to go.
Water has become expensive, and you can understand that it will go that way because the purification process has also become expensive. So if you want pipe-borne water, you have to be paying more for it. But then there are a lot more illegal connections. People will want to get water for free. People will want to do all kinds of things to make sure that they have water. I remember some time ago talking to some people who work with the Ghana Water and Sewage, then now Ghana Water Company Limited, and you realize that their collection process for people who have used the water, and you send out bills and they do not pay, they're not willing to come up front to pay. So you have certain households that owe so much, especially when you go to compound houses, and it's difficult to collect the monies. And they were trying to find out how they could do it. Disconnecting the taps in the houses does not result in you getting your money for what you've done. So they probably have to come up with more creative ways of getting the water. I think Electricity Corporation tried also doing something like that, and that's when they came up with a prepaid. But are we going to do prepaid for water? How will that work? Has anybody been able to do any feasibility to see how that will work? If you're not able to get people to pay for water that they have used, then you definitely will be producing at a loss.
Let's wrap with the papers from the Daily Guide newspaper. Fresh application for ex-Maslock boss. Sureties, and the AG is pursuing that with fresh developments there, pictured there, Sedinam, Tamaklo. There's also government won't compromise Etiwa Forest, pictured there, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu Jinapo. But that study that we've been speaking about, that's the banner headline, NPP to win 2024 with slim margin, research. But it would be poignant, the paper, again, I have my issues with some of the papers. It says research, but we all know it is research from the NPP's end. If it were to come from the NDC's end, we would also say it. This is NPP research, pointing to an NPP victory, not news. I have not had an erection since, and that is an interesting bit there. You would find this one curious, Liz. Suspended Ghanaian referee Kenny Paddy says he has not had an erection since officiating in the Super Clash game between Asante Kotoko and Hearts of Oak in the week 24 fixture. He awarded a penalty that was deemed controversial, though some referees have come out to say it was fair and square, a penalty. But the interesting bit is that he is claiming he's not had, an erection since that time. Interesting development.
What has that got to do with football?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes there's all this bit about, I'm just reading into it. There's all this bit about juju and all kinds of things that people claim to. So who knows? Who knows what it could be? But that is his claim. He says he's not had one since the Super Clash. God help him in that regard.
And what have the doctors said?
Not anything that, for now, we can report, but we'll see what the doctors will also say and whether there's any link at all with it. But to wrap on the international front, page 5 of the Daily Guide newspaper, judge holds Trump in contempt over documents in New York AG's inquiry. Beijing kicks off mass testing after COVID spike. We all know what is happening there. Russia announces expulsion of 40 German diplomats. And of course, Germany had initially expelled 40 Russian diplomats. So it's a tit for tat in international or diplomatic circles. And then mass burials planned for Nigeria oil blast victims. Very sad development there. About 100 people dead. And this was an illegal enterprise that they were undergoing. There are pockets of them in Nigeria, and it is difficult to find out where the operations are. They siphon, the oil from the major tanks and all of that. And then they do their own thing, but very dangerous enterprises. So that's the final bit there. I don't know whether you have a final take on that bit, the Nigerian incident. So sad.
Yeah, it's very sad, and it reminds me. So their galamsey is with oil.
Yeah.
Our galamsey is for gold, and there's always a risk attached to it. But they're willing to take the risk for the little money that they can get, and these things would happen. The blast, I'm not too sure what caused it. It could either be from too much heat from the sun, or the fact that people themselves around there were not being careful enough and could cause any amount of damage. But it's very unfortunate because oil is very combustible. So a little fire sparked would just cause the whole thing to inflame, and it would engulf all of them. Yeah. It's a pity. We should learn as a people to do things right, but we always want a quick and a fast way out, and it always costs us our lives.
President Buhari has described it as a national disaster, and we all agree. And we commiserate with our brother and sister Nigerians on that unfortunate incident as well. On that note, a big thank you, Liz, for joining us for another Tuesday morning.
Thank you.
Do have a good day. Up next on the AM show, we serve you sports. Do stay.